not to remove foods for forever. The goal is information. You're trying to answer the question of, is this food actually causing a problem? Whereas being low FODMAP, the goal is to actually lower the symptoms you're having by lowering the amount of fermentable carbs that you are putting into your body. Oh no, what's up everybody? How's it going? Strong, well-fed, and outspoken. How's it going, cousins?
We're just laughing because Rusty was like, you know what I'm going to do? Hit record and only have one earring.
Yeah, I'm like, if you guys are watching along, I'm like putting on my earrings as we do this. I couldn't see the timer going off. Anyways, it's Monday. We're recording on a Monday today.
I think that's the problem, right?
Yeah, normally Noel and I record like Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, but we're trying to like backlog some episodes because somebody's pregnant.
I'm so sorry. Trying to build the team here.
We figured it would be good to get ahead of things. So anyways, what is going on, you guys? Welcome to the pod. If you guys are new here, my name's Rusty. I'm one half of the dynamic duo.
And I'm the other half. Nell, what's up?
What up? What up? Nell and I were just talking about, what actually were we talking about? Oh no, you know what? We're going to keep this on the topic of fashion first. We were just talking about like, denim is how it started. Because again, if you're not watching, I'm wearing like a denim jacket. And even though I'm Canadian, I like never really wear denim.
Yeah, and if you don't know this, I'm big redneck. Flannel and denim are staples for me.
Yeah. And we were talking though about how like denim is like very restrictive.
Yes.
And when you are like broad, like I am, like we
yeah,
are.
I lovingly use the term big back.
Yeah, I know. Big back has become so popular nowadays, and I actually kind of love it. I'm like,
yeah. And I think like there's kind of power in taking back something that maybe has impacted you negatively. Like,
absolutely.
Hell yeah, I'm a big back bitch, you know?
Totally. Changing the storyline. I love it. But anyways, for one thing I forgot to say to Nell, I don't even care because I was telling her this is my first day wearing this and I don't know, I might actually take it back. I literally still have the tags on it. On the back. Like I know I could pull them off and take them back anyway.
But you gotta like it's one thing to try it on in the store, but you don't move like you normally move in the store, right?
Yeah, like the other day I went and bought some new shoes and I was literally running up and down the aisles in the shoes and Stefan's laughing. I'm like, I have to test them out.
Exactly. Like can I drop it low in these? Probably. I need 100%. To know.
I'm like doing lunges, Bulgarian split squats off the bench. I'm like, will these actually work in the gym? Like, sure, they fit my feet, but do they actually work?
Right.
Speaking of do they actually work? So today, you guys, this episode
that segue was so smooth.
Right? Thank you. This episode is for anyone who has ever been told or ever heard maybe it's gluten, maybe it's dairy, maybe it's FODMAPs, maybe it's your gut.
Yeah, you got some IBS. Maybe we should try some things for that.
Yep. And before you know it, you're eating like 5 foods. You're terrified of everything else. And your grocery list looks more like a survival guide rather than like a, what am I actually going to enjoy eating this week? True. Because I see it a lot, and I see it a lot more now than I feel like I ever did before. And I think it kind of goes back to what we even talked about a few episodes ago in regards to like everybody labels everything as a health phase nowadays.
I think too, it comes to like, there's a lot of information out there. Previously, it was very small groups of people that were providing certain information, or there was very structured and limited amounts of information. And now, you can just type anything into a search engine and boom, there's more than enough information there, right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
And I think we talked about this way back, but like you can always find something on the internet that you agree with.
Always. And to be honest, like, okay, so if you guys haven't gathered, sorry, first of all, today we're talking all about digestion related symptoms from the aspect though of elimination diets versus low FODMAP, right? Hence the, maybe you're only buying 5 things. You're eating the exact same meals for the next 4 weeks and worried to eat anything else. You're cutting out dairy, you're cutting out gluten. You're sticking to a low FODMAP diet because maybe you do have some type of digestive symptom like bloating, right? So common ones, bloating, gas, cramping, diarrhea, constipation.
And then we get into the other things too, like constant migraines, skin issues, what else? Autoimmune stuff that you're not really sure about, right?
Yes.
Allergies.
Yeah, absolutely. Like constantly having pain in your joint, even in your joints, excuse me, even if, let's say, you do know that you have some arthritis in your family or some arthritis that's starting to present itself. A lot of the time, certain foods can trigger that even more.
Mhm.
You said before, skin related acne is a huge thing. Rosacea is a huge thing for
Eczema,
people. Yes, it's
even like funguses. This is going to sound gross and it's a little bit personal, but that was one of the things that really flared up for me when I was in the worst kind of point health wise was like my toenails looked odd. I had weird patches of itchy things. And if you don't know, like I worked in a pool for over a decade, so I
yeah.
probably picked some things up there, but it flared really bad.
Yeah, 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 and I think well, actually, well, let's take a step back because to be honest, we're both in a place, ironically enough, where we have kind of been on a either. For me, I am doing both elimination and low FODMAP currently. I probably will still be doing it by the time you guys hear this, and you have had a major elimination
Yeah,
in the
I think
last
where
little
it
bit.
differs is like it's not getting added back in. And that's kind of a
Yes.
key phase in an elimination diet. Whereas what the situation I'm in, you almost have to view it more as an allergy. Like when you're allergic to peanuts and you find out you're allergic to peanuts, you don't put them back in,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
100%.
yes, definitely a learning curve of like, what am I not including in my diet now?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, maybe it'd be a good point, to be honest, to kind of dive in right there in terms of like what the difference is between an elimination diet versus low FODMAP. Because again, you guys, like if you're having any of those symptoms, I know, depending on who you talk to or what you research or even your own first instincts, but it's probably to start removing foods,
Mm-hmm.
right? You start to remove some, then for a lot of people, they start to remove more and then more. And a lot of people end up in a position, I find, where they don't even know what they're actually allowed to eat anymore. And so we really
And you
want to.
actually start to miss out on things at this point, right? Like there's
Oh, 100%.
certain nutritional needs that are no longer being met. And that's the issue with anything. Like that's one thing when I'm working with other celiacs is like you do need to supplement certain things because you're just simply not absorbing it or not getting it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of want to just break up or break down what is a big source of confusion for a lot of people in terms of what's the difference between an elimination diet, low FODMAP diet, when should you use one? How long should you maybe be staying on one? How do you potentially some tips for coming off of them?
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, maybe most importantly, like how do you avoid getting stuck in restriction mode for forever?
Yeah, because are you utilizing them appropriately? I think a lot of the time, people are struggling to lose weight. They're maybe not feeling their best.
Yeah.
And it's not actually a food related issue, but it
Mhm.
seems like an answer because lots of people will lose weight when they're utilizing some of these tools because their body wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. Right.
Totally.
And they start to feel better. So they start to be more active. And so you see that and you think, I'm going to cut everything out and I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to do this. And that's not always what it's for, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, let's start with elimination diet. Um, to be honest, you guys, the name is exactly what it sounds like,
Yes.
right? An elimination diet is where you are temporarily removing foods that you might suspect could be contributing to like different symptoms that you're having.
And typically with elimination diet, you're removing whole food groups,
Yep,
right?
yep,
So it like taking out all dairy or all gluten or all soy. Whereas with FODMAP, they're different specifics, right? We're not looking at whole food groups, we're looking at types of food. So
yep.
elimination versus FODMAP is for me is whole groups of food is kind of the big one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think, we want to keep in mind there's a difference between like if somebody's like, oh, I'm on an elimination diet for forever, they're not actually on an elimination diet for forever. That is literally a change of nutritional lifestyle. So like now walk us through like, if you don't mind,
Of
walking
course,
us
no, not
through
at
like
all.
some of the symptoms you're having and your
Yeah.
process with
So
elimination
pick a
diet.
symptom. I probably had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Major skin issues. If you guys even go back and watch earlier episodes of the pod, you can see my skin is not happy. And if
Mhm.
you're watching now, it looks pretty good comparatively. Severe joint pain. I had migraines all the time, hair loss,
Yeah.
um, brain fog, fatigue. Uh, those were kind of the surface ones. lots of little things that now I'm like learning about it. I'm like, oh, that was obviously a symptom too. But those were kind of the main ones that I was navigating. Not a lot of digestive stuff, actually,
Yeah.
for me. So that's kind of what I was navigating.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you said, it wasn't a lot of digestive stuff for you, which is where a lot of people do initially tend to think of um, being a culprit for why they should change
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, right? Like, oh, I maybe need to cut certain things out because I'm having IBS, I'm having gas, I'm having bloating. And let's also clear the air on this, guys. Like IBS, right? Irritable bowel syndrome.
Kind of a
It is
blanket
not,
catch
yes,
all. Yeah.
it's like it's a broad term, right? It's an umbrella term that represents what could be just like a number of different common, excuse me, but also chronic disorders that are happening in your digestion. So again, it's not like one thing, it can be multiple things. But yeah, as Nell said, a lot of the symptoms she was having was not digestion related. So
And truly, like because I was still working with Rusty as my coach at the time, we had gone through the process of like reducing my dairy intake and stuff and still weren't getting answers, right?
yeah,
And I think that's really important to note when you're looking at like an elimination diet, right? We were eliminating things and it wasn't working.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
And
what
then
was your
adding them back in, right? I was not leaving those forever.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because that's the thing, right? That's really what you just said is a very big key for an elimination diet. It's temporarily removing foods that you suspect might be contributing to the symptoms you're having. But when you're doing this, the goal is not to remove foods for forever. The goal is actually information. It's honestly, it's like I always think in my mind, I'm like, it's like Inspector Gadget, right? Like back in the day, because you're literally trying to answer the question of, is this food causing the problem that I'm having?
Yeah, really. These should be viewed as diagnostic tools, not long-term diets.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the common foods that a lot of people will tend to eliminate is dairy, as Nell said, we did as well. Is gluten. For a lot of people, eggs is a
Mm-hmm.
big one in and of itself. Soy-based products, excuse me, corn-based products, even artificial sweeteners. I cannot talk this morning.
Sweeteners, yeah, that was definitely one on my list.
Oh yeah,
Sweeteners in general.
and that's what's really
And
interesting
I
to
think
me.
like even like food dyes and stuff too, right? Like
Oh, for sure.
you can get a little more specific with elimination.
Yes. Oh, definitely, right? Because we're giving broad spectrums because sometimes we are eliminating entire categories of food. But at the same time, sometimes it is just like small things. Like some people might have an issue with regular potatoes, but not sweet potatoes, and there is definitely a difference there. Some people might have a bit of an issue with, something like an avocado, but not have an issue with other fats or other seed related products.
And I think sometimes what happens here is when we're doing elimination, a lot of things get cut out and you feel better, but you feel better because you've cut out something that's impacting you differently, right? Like avocados, bananas, those can
Mhm.
actually be a latex allergy,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why this is a diagnostic and you add it back into C.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Not to mention, like, on the topic of avocados, they tend to be higher histamine. So, like, if you're having a histamine related issue, then maybe it is, certain foods that are higher histamine. Maybe it's the fact that you can only ever eat fresh salmon and tuna, but as soon as you have something that's from a can, there's going to be more histamine in that because it has literally been sitting in the can and all of a sudden you don't digest it well. Or
Yeah, oral allergy works the same way, right? Like if your
yeah,
fruit is heated versus fresh.
yeah, oh yeah. Even for some people on that note, right? Like if you ever meet somebody who's like, "Oh no, I can only eat, let's say chicken if I make it fresh that day, but as soon as even if it's the next day leftover, it wrecks my stomach." That's likely a histamine related issue because the longer the food is sitting, the more the histamine's building. So it's not the chicken itself that they have the issue with, it's the histamine that's, basically building um over time from it
Mhm.
sitting. So elimination diets are really about that. Like we said, it's about investigating what is causing the problem. So like for you now, when we did like the dairy and stuff, your symptoms, and it's not that symptoms will necessarily go away, but did you, before you found the real root cause, did you notice yourself feeling any different on any of those other things?
Not with the dairy, but do you recall I went home for my sister's wedding last year and my brother has a severe wheat allergy, very specific, been diagnosed wheat allergy. And so my mom was using a lot of non-wheat alternatives in her cooking. And gluten is a protein in wheat. It's in a
Yep.
lot of other things, but it's a protein in wheat. So I wasn't eating it, and I actually started to feel better then. And that's, I think, when we kind of started to connect the dots.
Yep. 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 And then with your, how long have you been gluten free now?
Since October. So what is that?
Man, going almost a year,
Seven,
see
eight
nine
months? Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, 8 months, 7 months, something like that. That's crazy. So like, here's the thing, guys, right? Like the elimination diet in Nell's case, it did what it was supposed to do. It
Hmm.
gave her the results of like, it's not the dairy, it's not eggs or soy or whatever it is. Not that she cut out all those other things, but right away starting to notice I feel better not having wheat related products, cutting gluten out, recognizing. And then, I mean, you've worked with a specific practitioner for that as well, where you got testing done and you were able to confirm.
Yeah, and I actually do repeat testing now
Yeah.
to maintain that level of health. So I actually see my gastroenterologist this month in a couple
Mm,
of weeks, right? I went and got the scope done to see the actual damage. And that's the thing, right? Like there has to be some form of metric of tracking. Instead
totally.
of just cutting things out and going, I feel better, awesome. Are you documenting?
Yes.
How do you know what you cut out that makes you feel better? Did you add it back in? Did you do it for a length of time that's appropriate? You have to have that follow up. And I think that's important with any nutritional plan.
Definitely. Yeah. You guys, if you're doing an elimination diet, you're not like, oh, I'm trying to drop 5 pounds or things like that. That's not what this is for. This is to investigate a root cause of what might be going on, because you have to understand that with elimination diets, they are going to be symptom driven. Okay. You're removing foods because you suspect that there could be a trigger happening somewhere, not because someone on Instagram said that, they're inflammatory,
Mhm.
right? You do not adopt somebody else's um, needs. You do not adopt somebody else's lifestyle or nutrition based requirements.
No, because really, I would say you and I live very similar lifestyles compared to the general population. And
Yep.
you're not over here giving up gluten because you want to, like,
Yeah, 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 totally.
I'm not eating liver.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for
That's a
sure.
personal preference. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with eating liver, you guys.
yeah, no, 100%. And so this is where, so the difference between elimination versus going low FODMAP.
Yeah, because you've been doing low FODMAP primarily, right?
Yeah, so I've actually been doing, yes, primarily low FODMAP, but for the last, I just passed 6 weeks, I've actually also been dairy and gluten free. And sometimes we can have those overlaps because, again, gluten can be, for some people, potentially more inflammatory,
This is
right?
why some
So,
people that have celiac disease can't eat oats, even though they're
yes.
gluten free, right? Because the body responds the same way. And so this is why there's crossover and this is why there's confusion.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, guys, FODMAP, right? Basically, it stands for, I definitely had to write this down, so
I
hold
wrote
on.
it down too, and I'm like, I'm going to
Yeah.
butcher these words.
Oh my gosh, I know. So first one, no problem. It's fermentable.
Fermentable.
O
I
it's one of the saccharides, but I don't know.
oligosaccharide, oligo,
Yeah.
oligoth.
Basically, like the saccharides, right? They are carbs, they're sugars, but
Mhm.
the oligo, I don't know how to say this part. The oligo, then you've got the disaccharides, the
Mono
monosaccharides,
and the
and the polyols.
polyols.
Yeah. So they're short chain carbs that your small intestine absorbs.
Mhm.
But they're short chain carbs that your small intestine tends to absorb poorly, which is what causes the digestion issues.
Because then it pushes it through to the large intestines, and that's when it starts to ferment. That's why it's fermentable, right?
Exactly. So, a lot of the time, those digestive issues like bloating, like diarrhea, they can come through in more sensitive individuals, right? Particularly, again, anyone who's already experiencing things like IBS. So, in my case, the reason why I'm doing this is because, and if you go back, we did a whole episode on like my health phase and things like that. But a big reason why we're doing this is because I started to definitely have symptoms. My symptoms specifically were I had developed a burp, like all of a sudden. Like literally just woke up and one day was like, I'm burping a lot. Like, what's going on? And then that burp,
Interesting.
yeah, the burp just like progressed to the point that like at one point I counted and I was like burping 35 times a
And
day.
like prior to this, we've done tests and stuff throughout to check like stomach acidity and levels like that, right? So this was
Yeah.
definitely something you had monitored, right? Like suddenly came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, seemingly out of nowhere, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really what it felt like. And I did so many things to myself just to see what was going on. Like I fasted one morning for a long period of time and was like, when does the burping start? Okay, like as soon as I had some water, I'm burping. So I'm like, okay, then you start to think, is it stomach acidity? Because water can dilute stomach acidity. And then for me, like it just progressed. And then I got a yeast infection,
And if you guys
lost
don't know, yeast
inflammation.
is a like bacterial overgrowth.
Yeah. It's a sign of a bacterial
Mm-hmm.
overgrowth for sure. So I right away between the burping and the yeast infection, I was like, oh, I have candida. And sure enough, I did have candida,
You
but
had
it's
like three types or something, didn't you? I think you said it in an
yeah,
episode way back, right? Yeah.
yeah, because I started working with a naturopath and we like did a bunch of testing and she was like in her opinion everybody has some, I don't know if I agree with this, everyone has some base level of candida, but it's a matter of like does it flare up, how long is it sitting dormant, things like that. But for me she was like you have like three different strains,
Interesting.
which it was really, she's like I don't know if I've ever seen three different strains. So I was like wow, I'm special. um, so, anyways, I started to notice that, when I look back, even just like my own digestion, like I always would joke, Steph and I would always joke that with how much protein I eat, I was just always gassy
Always
all the time.
gassy. Yeah.
Everyone sees those memes. But like my gas, now being on the other side, I can see how I thought it was normalized because it happens so often, but it really wasn't. Like my gas was like frequent all the time, very bad smelling. And I shouldn't say all the time, it was mostly in the evening, like end of the day, but just like I was very gassy. So now I'm burping,
That's
gas
interesting
all
because
the
I
time.
think we sometimes, as people in the fitness industry, we normalize certain things because that's what
Yeah.
we're exposed to, right? Like it's very, very common for bodybuilders to have issues with like SIBO or
Yeah.
IBS or any
Oh
of these,
yeah.
right? Because we've put our bodies through such rigorous things that
Yeah.
it's almost, oh yeah, protein farts. Like we've all heard that. You're a
Yeah. Yeah.
gym
Yeah. It's
bro.
a joke.
When
Yeah.
actually a lot of us are probably struggling with deeper issues.
Yeah, H. pylori, like something's going
Yes.
on there. So for me, it kind of became this like, okay, we got to figure out what is going on. And then the other big aspect of that was blood work testing. So, for me, my liver antibodies were elevated. I did like a full GI map, a Dutch test, like everything you could think of. And what we are seeing is, I was having symptoms that were presenting themselves as digestive issues. But again, this is where, even for us with the clients we work with, we talk about the root causes. It looked as though the root cause was coming more from my liver, which was, playing into my gut and my thyroid. And then I was having these symptoms through
I
digestion.
think when we think liver issues, we often think alcohol intake, and you had
Yeah.
already eliminated that primarily from your
Oh,
diet,
yeah.
right?
Like
So
years ago.
for us, it's easier to go, that's not something we're looking at because we've already done some of that legwork ahead of time. And I think when people
Totally.
go into an elimination diet, they don't realize how many factors there are.
Yeah, yeah. So I have been following a low FODMAP approach basically for the last 6 weeks. It is, if you're familiar at all with like liver detoxification, there's like phase one, phase two, phase three. So I'm in phase two now. Phase one was mostly liver focused. The only difference really between phase one and phase two is the fact that you change supplements up a little bit, but we don't start reintroducing foods until phase three. So, like in my case, I am following a temporary, truly elimination diet to take as much stress off of my liver as possible. It's not necessarily that we are looking to find a food that is causing an issue, because in my case, we know that there aren't likely any foods causing my issue, but my liver is an underlying factor. And so to take as much stress off of my liver as possible, we are following an elimination diet to keep things as calm so that then we can also work on clearing my gut and then we can reintroduce
Yeah,
foods.
because I think the goal is always healing, right? It's
Exactly.
not restriction. It's to allow the body to heal and then see what happens after that. Because
Totally.
even as a celiac, if you're not eating gluten, actively eating gluten, it won't test that you have problems with it, right?
Yeah.
Because your gut is doing what it needs to be doing.
Yeah. And here's the really interesting thing, in my case at least, is that like, so with a Dutch test, GI test, like literally everything. We were able to, because it is probably one of the most in-depth digestion related tests, well, just tests in general that you could have. But one of the things it looked at is specifically, how does your body handle gluten? And it shows it on a sliding scale, right? In terms of, does your body have any resistance towards gluten? And I'm literally at like a 0. My body has no issue with gluten, processing gluten. So people are like, why are you cutting it out? Because as Nell said, it's not necessarily a digestion always related cause for us reducing it. It's to take ease of burden off of other systems in the body. So yes, that
So I
is
guess
why
we
I
should talk, like we've talked a little bit about like low FODMAP, but we haven't actually talked about like what kind of falls into that category versus like eliminating a food group.
Yeah, exactly. So again, like just think FODMAPs, basically there's certain carbs that people absorb poorly, and they tend to be highly fermentable in specific people. So some of you guys can probably guess what some of these are, because I think they're talked about a lot, like onions and
Onions,
garlic.
garlic. Yeah. Those are my top.
Yeah.
Those are the two that come to my brain immediately.
Yeah, I always think about the nightshade vegetables as well.
Yes. Yep.
So nightshade vegetables, things like tomatoes, bell
Tomatoes.
peppers. Again,
I eat
onions are
mushrooms in
considered
that
one.
category.
Yes, they are. I miss mushrooms so badly right now. Actually, I love mushrooms. But some ones that might actually surprise you guys, apples is actually one, right?
Pears, artichoke. When I was making this list, I kind of thought these are actually like really fibrous fruits and veggies, right? Like blackberries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you know why? Because fiber tends to slow that digestion or that breakdown process, right?
Yes.
And so that makes sense, right?
Totally. If you're already having an issue with food that's fermenting, you don't necessarily want to add more foods that might contribute to fermentation, which is why even like, again, really fibrous foods like beans are on the list. Mm-hmm. Again, certain dairy products will usually be, low FODMAP, and again, sweeteners.
Yeah, and like wheat and barley, right? Because gluten tends to be one of those things.
Yeah, definitely. It's always funny to me with the sweeteners one, right? And this is where, like, as we joke about, our podcast should be called like Everything is Nuanced, because the fitness industry loves to either be like sweeteners are evil or there's nothing wrong with them from like a cancer or weight gain, weight loss perspective, but people often tend to forget about how it can impact your digestion. Right? Like,
and we're not even just talking like an artificial sweetener. Honey falls on that list, right? Like sweeteners. Blanket term.
Honestly, that was one I forgot about when I was getting all this set up for myself. I was like super surprised again, because I was thinking to myself, oh, I could still have honey. Then I was like, oh no, yeah, I can't have honey. I can have maple syrup, but no honey. So yeah, it's really interesting. But with a low FODMAP approach, right, your goal isn't actually to identify a food allergy, whereas like maybe with the elimination, you are trying to identify not necessarily an allergy, but something that you have resistance to. Whereas low FODMAP, your goal is to reduce the symptoms that you're having by just lowering the like overall amount of fermentable carbs that you're putting into your body.
Yeah, just recently I was working with someone and lots of digestive issues. And so we did a nutrition journal, and onions multiple times a day. I said, stop that. Have onions once or not at all during the day. And it made a big difference. Just that small adjustment, right? Because we've reduced a food that was causing grief.
Totally. So to summarize the difference between the two guys, elimination diet is you are temporarily removing foods that you think might be contributing to your overall symptoms.
And you're strictly eliminating that food.
Exactly.
Right? For a period of time.
Yeah, because the goal is not to remove foods for forever. The goal is information. You're trying to answer the question of, is this food actually causing a problem? Whereas being low FODMAP, the goal is to actually lower the symptoms you're having by lowering the amount of fermentable carbs that you are putting into your body. You want to think about low FODMAP as being a therapeutic diet, not a wellness diet, right? It's not a healthy eating lifestyle. And therefore it is not something
honestly, I would get on your soapbox here, because I feel this way about all things that are labeled as a diet, right? Yeah. Like it drives me nuts when people are like, oh, I'm going to go gluten-free. I'm like, don't. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I would rather have an anaphylactic peanut allergy.
Yes.
Truly.
Yeah, yeah. So biggest difference, elimination diet is asking you what specific food is causing my symptoms, but low FODMAP is asking are fermentable cause carbs contributing to my symptoms.
Mhm.
Whereas like an elimination diet can target almost any food pretty much, whereas low FODMAP is specifically targeting FODMAP containing
And
foods.
I would say low FODMAP is primarily gut related, right?
Yes.
Like your symptoms are primarily gut related, whereas elimination, we're looking at multiple things: skin health, fatigue, joint
Yes.
health, things like that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So again, if low FODMAP, if we understand like it's not a therapeutic diet, it's not a wellness diet, it's not like a healthy eating lifestyle, the question then becomes like when does an elimination diet or low FODMAP diet actually make sense,
Sense. Yeah.
right?
When is it appropriate to be doing it? Absolutely.
So and like I think what you guys can probably hear from both Nels and I's stories is that we investigated these things more because we were consistently
Yes.
noticing symptoms, right? We're not
And
talking,
documenting them, right? I think
yes,
that's the biggest thing I
it's
say with
huge.
any of our clients. They're like, "Oh, I'm burnt out. I don't want to track. I just want to have a balanced lifestyle." That's all well and fine, but I need the information long enough to determine how we're going to do that.
Definitely. Yeah. Because, like, guys, I don't want to hear. I mean, if you're working with us, tell us. We want to hear about it. I don't want, to hear people saying, like, oh, like this weekend I was bloated, my tummy was hurting. I was so gassy, I had some diarrhea. And then we like talk to you and we're like, well, tell me about this weekend. And you're like, well, I went to like the fair and I had one of those bloomin' onions.
Everything was deep fried.
Like
Yeah.
ice cream. Yeah, like yeah, literally deep fried and onions. You're like, and I
Dipped
had ice
in
cream.
deep fry.
Yeah, and then Saturday night I went out with the girls. We had some margaritas. I'm like, bitch, please.
Yeah, 3
You do
bottles of
not
wine later.
no, you do not need to go low FODMAP. You don't need to, oh, I'm thinking maybe it's like gluten. I need to cut gluten out, or like maybe it's the dairy. I'm like, yeah, it's the dairy because you ate ice cream 3 times. Like,
Yeah.
it's consistent symptoms. It's when you're like, hey, I've been eating pretty much the same, and all of a sudden I'm burping 30 times a day for the past 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Like I'm in Nell's case, right? Like I'm losing hair. You don't just have like
Yeah, and
one.
when I went to the doctor and I said, "Here's all the symptoms," I kind of get that, like, "Well, what are you eating?" And I'm literally like, "Here's my food journal. Here's my caloric intake. Here's how much of everything I've had." And she was
Yep.
like, "Well, I wasn't ready for that."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I am here because I am at rock bottom.
I am sure like doctors sometimes are probably like, oh, this will just be like a first assessment because they won't be prepared and
I'm
I
like,
need
"Hey,
all the
hello.
symptoms.
Here's my binder."
Yeah, a doctor hates to see us coming. um, but yeah, it's consistent. We talk about how consistency is key for everything when it comes to saving money, building a stronger body, losing weight. But it's about consistency. Consistency is as equally important when it comes to identifying things that
Yes.
are going on in your body too, right?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you want to work with us, just be prepared to do something longer than maybe you think you're going to do it for.
Yeah, yeah. We want to see the proof.
Workout phases, nutrition. We're
Yes.
doing it long term.
So, when we're talking about elimination diet, right? So you are consistently noticing symptoms after potentially specific foods, though. So, like maybe you're like, I'm always bloated or gassy after any type of dairy, not just ice
Mhm.
cream, any type of dairy. Maybe it's after eggs, maybe it's after gluten. Um, you
Or
know,
after certain meals, but you're
yeah,
always eating the same thing for that meal. Because we
exactly.
don't always think in terms of like, oh, this is my cause. We think this is when it happens.
Definitely. Yep. So basically, you have something that you suspect might be triggering you, and you want to test it systematically so that we actually get some answers. Whereas low FODMAP, if you are chronically bloated, I cannot talk today, you guys. I'm sorry. Too many
Monday.
client check-ins this morning. Chronically bloated. You are chronically gassy. You're always having some type of like abdominal gut related pain. Any of those IBS symptoms, which I know are a lot, but like you're chronically having them. Even like bowel movements. If you're like constipated, diarrhea, you're even going back and forth between the two. And we're talking about symptoms here. When it comes to low FODMAP, we're talking about symptoms that seem to happen regardless of what you're eating.
Yeah.
And that was something I want to say I noticed for me with the burping is it was like, again, I fasted and then I only had water and I started burping. I'm like, okay, today I'm not going to have any artificial sweeteners. I'm still burping.
Yeah, it's not like you ate a
Um,
massive meal and then we're like, oh, I don't feel good.
yeah, yeah. Today I'm going to do like lower carbs. I'm going to have like mostly veggies or root vegetables. I'm still burping. I'm having more processed stuff. I'm still burping, right? It's didn't matter what I was eating. And actually, I remember because I was in Hawaii and Steph came out because I was there by myself that time and he came out. And the week he was there, my burping went down. And I thought, this is so weird. We're eating out more and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden it came back in full force again. So it didn't matter what I was eating, it was chronically happening. Um, Low FODMAP is basically going to help you figure out whether, fermentable carbs, because that's what we're talking about here, are contributing. But here's the key: low FODMAP or elimination, neither diet neither diet should be your first response to occasional bloating.
Mm-hmm.
Way too many people jump the gun on this. One meal does not mean you need a restrictive protocol because sometimes the issue is honestly stress. It can be a lack of sleep. It can be eating too quickly. It could be eating distracted, always watching something, going
Or lack of
from
hydration, right? Like I think so many
totally.
people are underhydrated and then struggle with digestion. And it's like, of
Yeah.
course, things
Yep.
don't float down a dry river.
Yeah. 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 But even like under eating and then overeating, that's a
Yes.
big
Yeah.
combo.
If you are restricting and then eating a huge amount, that's hard on your stomach and your digestive system. It doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, and I hate to say it, but for a lot of people we work with, they get caught up in the cycle of I'm out the door first thing in the morning. I'm looking after the kids. I'm working. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm just kind of snacking as I go throughout the day. And then nighttime comes and like, oh, I'm having my like 1,200 calorie meal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, baby, that
That's a
is a
problem.
big contributor. Yeah. So those are the differences. Those are kind of how we're looking to use them. But one thing that I really want you guys to hear us on is that a big mistake people make is never reintroducing foods.
Yes.
And I get it. Like, I would be honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Already where I am now, I know that everything I'm doing is not meant to be for forever. But actually, what I want to say, did we talk about this? Like, did you talk about some of the things you've noticed since cutting out gluten, like how much better, like signs of your body healing?
A little bit, just like with my skin on, past episodes and stuff like
Sure.
that. And it's not a complete fair comparison because I threw in a pregnancy there and my body's just
Yeah,
been
yeah.
doing its thing.
For sure. Well, one thing I've noticed actually for both of us is because I was watching an old episode, how much longer both our hair is.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Hair health and I would say skin health, right? Like, because we're both at that
Yeah.
age where, time is not on our side anymore.
This would be a
We're
great
closer to
episode.
40 than we've ever been. That's the elasticity is not there.
Yeah, definitely. Collagen is dropping.
Yeah.
Collagen is
So I
dropping.
would say like skin health, hair health for sure. For
Yeah.
me, joint pain. That was because I've had
Yes.
pretty severe injuries with reconstructive surgery. So one of the things that always flares up for me is my joints. And we actually ate a meal out the other day, and my problem area, like I said to my husband, I think I need to wear my brace today. It hurts so bad, and I didn't sprain my wrist or anything like that. And I'll bet I got gluten because I don't have those digestive symptoms that a lot of people have.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Yep.
that got better, substantially better, was the joint pain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. No? Yeah. I was looking at an old episode of us like early, like season one. And I was like, wow, yeah, look at our hair.
And my
And
hair wasn't growing at that point. It was
yeah,
stuck at that length.
yeah, me too. For a while, I had been losing hair. Um, for
But,
me,
yeah, are your
so
burps better?
oh yeah, like I don't burp. Like I think I burp like a normal human being now. And to be honest, even before doing like the going low FODMAP and gluten free, dairy free, I had made some changes. I had introduced some supplements, things like that, where my burping was definitely down, but I would still say I was burping probably like 10 times a day, which, you guys might think like, oh, I know I burp, but yeah, it's not that much. It's one of those things where you don't realize until you start paying attention to it. Most people burp with, actually, okay, sidebar. This is a really interesting way to assess your body's natural fullness or satiety. Is there is a tiny burp your body will release when it is actually satisfied. And the
What?
reason, yeah, this is an actual thing. This is an
It's
actual thing
witchcraft.
I just learned about. Your stomach will hold or keep a tiny bit of space because it doesn't want to reach a point of overfullness. And when you get to the point where you're at the like brim of that space, your body will actually send a cue to release a very small burp. Most of us
Interesting.
don't notice it because it happens all the time. We're just like, again, we're
And
not
it's
paying
not like this
attention.
loud audible thing. Like you kind
No,
of
you're
just
not
feel
like
it,
the
right?
Grinch
Yeah.
after he like drank the entire 2 liter. It's literally a tiny burp. And again, it always happens, but we tend to not pay attention to it. I'm not talking like if you're eating a protein bar, I'm talking you're eating your actual meal. For a lot of people, let's say dinner time, that's where they struggle. If you pay attention to it and once you notice that burp, that is your body's way of saying, I'm actually good now, no more food. For us, though, we tend to eat past it. But if you were to actually say, okay, there's the burp, like excuse yourself, go do something else for 10 minutes, a lot of the time you'll notice, oh, I'm actually fine. As much as I mentally want to keep eating my food, I'm good. I don't need to. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, most people will burp right around the time they eat a meal, with the tiny burp or not. So I'm like at that point, I'm like normal human burping now.
And like
um,
there's always going to be factors, right? Carbonation.
yep.
Like I my toxic trait is that I will chug a carbonated beverage start to finish, and then like I'll have those 7 Up burps. Have you seen those videos? I
Yeah,
don't know why I do it every time.
that's awesome. That's
Right? So
amazing.
obviously it's things like that, or like hiatal hernia, things. There might be factors, right? You can obviously rule out.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. For me also, and Stefan really appreciates this one. He even said it to me more the other day. I've been so focused on my burps, I didn't even, he's like, babe, you like never have gas anymore. I'm like, I know. And I still eat the same high amounts of protein. I probably
Mhm.
even eat like more red meat than I ever did before. It's crazy, you guys. My bowel movements are like the best they've ever been. Thank the Lord. So,
Are
yeah,
you
it
at
is.
the point yet? Maybe you're not, but like quality of life. Have you, because it's hard. There are
Yeah.
points where you're going through this process and it feels worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But are you at the point yet where you're starting to notice like more energy or just like more mental capacity, things like that? Or are you still working
Yeah.
towards that point?
Yeah, no, I'd say I definitely am. So a big part of my process as well, one thing we didn't even touch on is a lot of the time when you are doing low FODMAP, caffeine will also be something that gets cut. I
Shut
hate to
up.
break that to you guys.
It's
Yeah,
true.
thank
It's very
God.
true.
Yeah. So I have been totally, and I know we talked about this in a previous episode, but I've been totally caffeine free for the last 6 weeks. Not that I only probably had caffeine like 4 days a week before anyways,
Mhm.
but honestly, I'd say really up until the last week, the first like 4.5 weeks, like getting through my workouts was rough. I
Mhm.
really was missing that caffeine. And a big thing, you guys, when you're doing a detox phase, which I am basically doing, is that symptoms will, as Nell said, get worse before they get better. And I was really there. Like I was bloated like 24/7, or like we'll say 27. Like I was bloated like as soon as I started eating, and that is a very hard place to live
And I think this is
because
why it's important to note like you have to do these things long enough. You can't just cut it
yeah,
out for a couple of days and be like perfect,
I'm good.
because
Yeah,
it does take time. It does take kind of being in the trenches and be like this is working.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
trust the process.
Oh yeah, the mental resilience to be able to say, I know that, everything I'm doing right now is making me bloated and I'm still going to wake up and do it again tomorrow is hard.
Mhm.
But I would say my mental focus is a lot higher. My energy is way more even throughout the day. I don't have like dips and crashes. So yeah, quality of life, I would say, is definitely on the turnaround. Literally, I was working out yesterday and I was like, wow, will I go back to pre-workout after this? I'm like, probably, because I do love it.
And we are
But
creatures of habits. We all have our little vices, right?
yeah, but I was like, wow, I can really feel the difference in my natural energy production now.
Yeah, because for me, like there were days where I would just break down and cry for
Yeah.
no real,
Oh,
like
100%.
nothing specifically had happened. I just couldn't control my own emotions.
Yeah.
And now, like I am deep into pregnancy, and people are like, oh, like you'll be hormonal and stuff like that. I've been so even keel now, which is crazy
That's awesome,
because
though.
there was that point where, like, I was saying to my husband, like, do I need to talk to a therapist about like compounding grief? Like, I don't know why I can't not cry when I get in the shower, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that had been a huge shift that I didn't even really associate with my diet, right?
Yeah.
I was like chalking it up to the stressors in my life and things like that. But when your pain levels are high, when inflammation is high, when you don't feel
Oh,
confident in your skin,
oh yeah.
it impacts your psyche, right?
Oh yeah. Like, can I tell you guys that pretty much for the past 4 weeks, I've been living in a t-shirt and underwear, like oversized t-shirt and underwear, because I'm like, this is the only thing I feel comfortable in. Like, I don't want to put on clothes. I don't want to wear a bra. Like, and let me just reaffirm you guys that it's okay to do what you need to do to get through these phases, because
Yes.
like, what's the alternative? I give up now and go back and just live with a burp for the rest of my life, and like, which we know is not going to be it. Like, your body will progress and it will get worse and things will compound.
And I think some of you
So
guys listen to this and then you talk to us as your coaches and go, I had no idea you were going through this, right?
yeah.
Because there are things that have to get done throughout the day. We're humans and we have expectations,
Mhm.
needs, things like that. But what's going on in those like off camera times? What's going on? Or even as a parent, what's going on when your kids aren't watching?
Yep.
Those are the moments you kind of got to look at and go, it does something need to change.
Yes, definitely. And there's so much power in also recognizing, as me and Nell are talking about, like all the ways we felt, crying, having really dark. I know Nell and I would like hop on before we would literally hop on, and I'd be like, "How are you doing?" And you'd be like, "I like cried 3 times today, but I
Or
don't."
even,
But
yeah, there'd be days where like, I don't think we can record an episode today. I just
yep.
can't bring that level that I need to,
Oh
right?
yeah, I literally messaged Nell like 2 weeks ago. I was having no, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, but I was having I talked about it on social media. I was having a really bad week, and I said to Nell, I'm like, I can't put on a happy face and like do it.
And I think
But
that speaks to where we are because in our first season, both of us had to put down our animals, and
yeah,
like I didn't have kids at that point, right? And that was really hard. But we gave it a couple of days and then pushed through
yep,
because we had those capacities to do that. Whereas in the thick of it, sometimes you don't.
yeah, yep. It's there's so much power in, yeah, being able to feel all of your feels and acknowledge them, because I don't think it's healthy to try and pretend they're not happening, but also then separate your feelings from what it is you're actually still going to do, because we tend to live in a society where our feelings have the final say.
And
We
how often are you making food choices based on your feelings? It's
Yes,
very common.
exactly.
And when
Exactly.
you're doing an elimination diet or a low FODMAP
Oh,
or anything, there's no room for that.
yep,
Straight up.
literally.
And
You
you're going to want to make those choices because you're going to feel bad.
Yeah, yeah. You can live on the other side of your feelings, you guys. You really,
Mhm.
really can. Which means that like you can feel like acting in a way that does not align with your protocols in any capacity, but then still act right. You
Mhm.
can say, I feel like stopping this. I feel like giving up on my calorie deficit. I feel like forgetting about my health phase I feel like not taking my supplements. I feel like ordering a pizza. I feel like doing whatever, but feelings are fickle. So, yes, I feel like all of those things, but I'm actually going to still stay on it, stick with it, and keep going.
Mhm.
Like that's powerful when you can actually address how you're feeling, but then decide to act right anyways and do what needs to get done. Huge.
And I think
So,
that's probably a good indicator of like when it might be time to introduce foods back. When
yeah,
you are not feeling like
yes,
you want to.
yeah, yeah. And I would actually say that like the most important phase of an elimination diet, or like, going low FODMAP for a while, detox, the most important phase is reintroduction,
Mhm.
because this is where you're actually going to learn, right? This is where you're going to be able to keep everything consistent. You're going to introduce one food, one category, one challenge at a time, and you're going to be able to sit and observe. As Nell said before, right? Documenting things is so important. How do you expect to remember what is going on or what is happening if you do not document it?
It's
It's
true.
it's one
It's
of
as
the big
simple as that.
reasons why we do like what we call we have a food and mood journal with the clients that we work with, because we're not just interested in what you're eating and when you're eating and how much of it you're eating. We're actually interested in how it digests, how you mentally feel afterwards. Did you get tired? Did you have symptoms? Like, what is actually going on? And it's the same idea that we want here.
Yeah, and
um,
this even applies for like if you're doing macros. Sometimes as a coach, I ask you to not do macros and do a journal for that specific reason because you
yeah,
might be hitting certain metrics, but it still doesn't feel good.
yeah.
You're still struggling, right?
Totally. The most important phase is the reintroduction phase, because it's where you're going to learn. And here's what I want you to remember. you are not trying to prove that you can't eat certain foods. That's not what reintroduction is about. You're actually now trying to identify what you can tolerate. And often people are actually surprised because a lot of the foods that many people think are problematic or the ones that were giving them the symptoms turn out to not be the issues at all.
No, more
And
often than not, I would say.
oh, yeah, definitely.
And as someone who has had to eliminate a specific thing for the rest of my life, I wouldn't want that for anyone. I love food. If you
Yeah.
tell me I'm never going to eat this again, is it going to kill you?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
the only reason I can see for you giving up food.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And again, like, guys, I get it. I know we went off topic there, but what I was going to say initially is like, I'm a little nervous to reintroduce some foods. I totally get it because I'm feeling so much better. My symptoms, thank the Lord, are so gone. They've
Mhm.
moved out and packed up. But it does make you a little bit nervous about adding foods back. But it's a problem to stay again, as we talked about, like you can feel fearful. You can want to act in a way that keeps you safe, but actually choosing to add foods back is a huge benefit because you don't want to live your life avoiding
No, and
everything.
I think burnout is real, right? Like, how
Yeah.
often are you looking at your meals going, I don't want to make this again?
Yeah. Oh my
Right?
goodness. To be honest, last night Steph said to me, "How are you doing?" And I was like, honestly, I'm just at the point where like I do feel way better. I'm just tired of eating the same thing. Because it
Exactly.
is. I'm literally eating like the same 2-day rotation for the last 6 weeks. And it gets tiring, but you don't want to live your life like that, avoiding fruits and veggies, dairy, restaurants, social events. If you do that, you are going to make your world smaller and smaller. And the goal of either of these options is not about restriction. It's again just about information.
Yeah, I would say the goal for any of this is understanding
Yeah.
and having that knowledge, right? That this is something that maybe I need to look at differently.
Yeah, yeah. So just as a quick, very general, like how long you might be looking at being on one of those things, I was very tempted to not even put this in because it really depends on what it is you're working
It's nuanced. It's
on.
case by case, right?
Yeah, like how long your symptoms have been going on. So a lot of the time, like individual phases on their own, in my opinion, probably like 6 weeks. So as I even mentioned earlier, I'm in a 3-part phase. Each phase is about 4 to 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So I'm looking at, 12 to 18 weeks total, and the phases will change slightly. But again, that's also because I basically am doing low FODMAP, then elimination, then reintroduction.
Yeah, I would like when I do this when I help people through this, or even when I've done it myself, I give myself
Mhm.
kind of month blocks because my
Yeah.
brain comprehends 4 weeks well, and I think that's enough time to get it wrong,
Yeah, yeah.
and then get it right, and then view the outcome.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, not months and months and months, not years. Remember, like Nell said it before as well, right? Like there is a certain level of nutritional limitations that actually happen when you're on these diets long term. And so the
Hmm.
longer you stay restrictive, the greater your risk of nutrient deficiencies, but also, the emotional side of things, social isolation, food fear, unnecessary stress. Everything we're doing is about assessment right now. It's not a forever diet.
And that's, I think, the fine line or the balancing act is doing it long enough that you can have the answers, but then also reintroducing it long enough that you're certain that's the answer. Because we
Exactly.
go, oh, I cut this out. I felt good for a week. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I sometimes don't eat things for a week too. That's
Yeah.
just preference, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's, I didn't have it in my fridge.
yeah, exactly. I haven't
Yeah,
gone grocery shopping yet. So you
for
want to
sure.
do it long enough. And this is why there's, like Rusty said, she's going through phases of reintroduction, and it's months at a time. And
Yeah.
then there's that adding it in. You don't want to just add it in one time. You want
Yeah.
to add it in enough that you can kind of track, is it
Exactly.
impacting you?
Yep. So yes, when you're reintroducing, again, guys, remember you might be doing one food if it's like a larger style food, or you might be doing like one category of food at a time. I would say, add something in and probably hold for about 5 days. At the beginning, I would say hold for a week. notice how you are. You're not just having it once out of that week.
Yes,
You know,
add
maybe
in throughout, right? Not one time.
exactly. Yeah. So you're maybe having it in a small amount, each day or even
On
every
top
other
of what
day.
you're already eating is the other thing, right? You're
Yeah.
not stopping eating what you were eating, you're adding in. So it's eating and then plus. Because sometimes I think we go, oh, and I'm done, and now I'm eating this. And it's like, whoa, 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 pump the
Yeah.
brakes.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're having something in there for like 5, 7 days. Symptoms are good, everything is still good. Okay, we're adding one other thing in. We're not dumping 10 different things at once, because if you do have a trigger, it'll be hard to identify what was the thing that caused it. But then on the chance that, let's say you have added something in and you do notice a trigger, right? You get bloated, your digestion takes a hit, you're constipated. Do you have to go all the way back to week one? No, but we're going to drop that food and we're going to go back to what we were doing before, either the foods you had already added in and were safe before you added this other one in, or if it's the first food you added in, just what you were doing before, you're going to wait there for 4 to 7 days and then try adding something else in again.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good
Um,
point, because I think sometimes we go, oh, I screwed it up, so I'll just start fresh.
yeah.
That's not the answer here.
No,
Well, I'll tell
that's
you, that's not the answer
okay.
ever, in my opinion. I can't think
Yeah.
of at least off the top of my head, I can't think of an instant where that would be the best option.
Yeah. Like, even as you said before, right? You went out for food. You were like, oh, maybe I have to wear a brace. But then you were like, actually, I bet you there was some gluten in that. You didn't all of a sudden be like, oh, great, I'm like on day one now. You were just like, nope, it's continuing on. You've already built a base level of resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So you're bringing, things back down. Maybe you're really dropping from a flare, which we could do a whole episode on as well, and then continuing on from there.
Yeah, you kind of have your protocol in place, I would call it, right? Like, I know if I've been unintentionally gluten, I feel like dog doo doo the next day. So
Yeah.
hydration is very important, right?
Yeah.
Replenishing certain things is important. Making sure I have certain nutritional needs being met. That doesn't mean I'm like, oh, I don't feel good, I just want to lay in bed all day. No, I'm going to eat some protein, because I know that helps build and repair tissue. I know that's going to benefit me longer term, right? I'm
Yeah.
not just going to, stop eating entirely.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I think, guys, the big thing to remember is that when you're talking about looking at doing an elimination diet or a low FODMAP diet because you think food is the problem, food is not always the problem. Sometimes digestion is absolutely a symptom, but you have to remember that stress impacts digestion, sleep impacts digestion,
Yes, I see this
hydration.
so often. I work with people who work 24-hour shifts. They're awake for these long periods of time. And they go,
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm not feeling good, or I'm not losing weight. I'm like, of course not. The
no.
food you're eating is not the problem. The caloric intake is not the problem at this point. It's a lot of other things.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
So sleep, hugely impactful. Hydration, impacting your digestion. Movement, impacting your digestion. Even just your eating habits, right? Under eating to overeating each day, going 5, 6 hours between meals. So
Or
before you,
constantly snacking, right? Never
yeah,
not eating. That can
yep,
also be a problem.
a huge trigger actually. So before you start removing half of your diet, ask yourself, have I looked at my foundations? Because sometimes what looks like a food intolerance is actually just a stressed nervous system.
Yeah.
Truly.
So, I mean, just if you're interested in diving into that, I would look at what you're eating when and
Yeah.
start there. Documenting the time you're eating at and what you actually ate, and look at that for a couple of weeks and then start from there. I wouldn't start by cutting things out.
Definitely. So if you guys take one thing away, honestly, from today's episode, just let it be this. Elimination diets and low FODMAP diets, they are tools. They're not identities. They're not forever plans. They're not lifestyles. They're not your wellness routine from your favorite social media follower. Their purpose is to give you clarity, and your end goal should truly always be the same. More confidence around food, more flexibility, and more actual understanding of your body, not less of any of those things. Because the healthy relationship with food that you want, it's not built on restriction in any capacity, whether it's calorie restriction or elimination restriction. It's built on trust. And if you don't have that, then you're going to really struggle no matter what protocol or lifestyle you take.
I actually love what you said there. It's not identity. And as
No.
someone who does have sort of an eating situation where, like, I'm not allowed to eat that, that's still not who I am. Even
Yeah.
a chef who lives and breathes food, that's not who they are. There are so many
Yeah.
facets of it. And I think we can all take a little bit away from that. Food is not our identity.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys would love us, well, hopefully love us. If
Yeah,
you
if
guys
you would love
would,
us, thanks.
yeah, if you guys would like us or love us to talk about, separating your identity from this journey in any category, whether it's a diagnosis, a meal plan, a body type you're achieving, or even what was it we talked about before? Oh, dealing with flares. Then let us know in the show notes or shoot us a message on Instagram. You guys can find our social media handles in the show notes below. Likewise, if you guys are like, I think I have some digestive stuff going on, I don't know how to navigate this, I'm giving up on Google searching. Please give up on Google searching. Then click the show notes. There's a link below, and you guys can hop on a call to talk with us. We will dive in a little bit more as to what's going on with you, how we can help you guys figure this out to actually get you to a point where, as Nell even said before, you might go through a hard phase, but then you're going to come out with so much clarity on the other side and like a new appreciation for life.
And a hard phase is a lot easier when you have some kind of support. And if you need that support, feel free to reach out to us, have a chat, and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, all right, you guys. So if this was useful, please consider sharing it with a friend or on your social media. Tag us if you do. And as always, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. Until next week, we will see you guys then.